All right, and we're live, man. So, as usual, we started talking about some stuff off air, and I try and stop that immediately. That's a violation of podcasting ethics because we can start to talk about a bunch of cool, important shit, and that's what people want to hear. So, I just drove down I'm in Redmond, Oregon, and I drove to the house of Ethan Kowing, and he is the Oregon State Trooper that spoke out against the same stuff that we're all speaking out against right now. And if you haven't seen that video, go to, it's on your Instagram, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I'll put all that stuff in the show notes so people can find you and can watch your video and see what you're all about. But I mean, how I like to run my show, man, it's low key. It's just we vibe back and forth and have good energy, have good conversation. But I think it's important to I always ask my guests to start from the beginning. Tell everyone who you are, what you're about, what brought you to where you're at in life, and then we just take it from there, man. Have fun with it.
Sweet. Okay, so I was born in a really small town in eastern Oregon, about 1,700 people. I graduated with, I think, 68. Dad was a logger. Mom did several different jobs, and just hardworking family. My mom's family had a big ranch. We grew up working the ranch. We were up there sometimes every week, sometimes every other week. You work around real people. It's a place where you drive through town. Everyone waves at you. You know everybody. Everybody knows everybody's business. I tried college after high school. Dropped out twice. Played football and wrestled in high school all the way through. After college, I worked at a tire store, worked in a sawmill, fought forest fire. Since I was about 12, though, I wanted to be a trooper, specifically state trooper for Oregon. And I couldn't tell you why. I don't know if it was just the image that I saw when I was growing up, but
that was going to be my first question. Why a trooper?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you the beginning reason. I guess it just looked cool. I don't know.
And troopers are very it's a specific niche inside of law enforcement.
Right.
And I think you do have to have the right personality and the right goals to have that be the agency that's calling you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember when I was 16, I got stopped by a trooper who works out in that area still. And I found out the stop was unlawful after I went through the academy. And I was like, that asshole. But that was part of the reason also why I wanted to get into it. Once I was a little older, I was like, that's the way he went about it was all wrong. And it pissed me off. I was like, I've seen good cops work and that's what I'm going to be. And, hopefully we'll be able to push those bad ones out. But, we can see that right now the good ones are the ones getting pushed out.
Yeah, for sure. We were talking about that right before we started recording, that it seems again, no conspiracy theories are off the table at this point. And I worked I didn't work in hiring, but like you, I worked in a defensive tactics capacity at the academy. And you would get to see the level of people that are coming through. And it's almost like they're strategically hiring less and less capable people, or maybe less and less people that are outspoken, people that are willing to take a stand or speak up for what they believe. And it's to the point now where it's no, this is something that's been calculated for a while, because they don't want people. Even when I got hired from my last department in 2017, I wasn't in Seattle very long as a police officer. They want to know how many fistfights have you been in growing up?
Right, that's the problem.
What kind of question is that? Do you want someone that's grown up and fucking lived a little bit, or do you want someone that's just has no life experience?
Well, what they want is the guy with a college degree who has sat behind a desk his entire life and never been in trouble, so he's never had to learn lessons the hard way. Never been punched in the mouth. Maybe never done any kind of contact sport, and I would say wrestling is the number one to do in high school, but
100%.
Yeah.
And I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, but I always tell people, if you are a kid and you have wrestling available to you, go wrestle. Wrestle is hands down, in my opinion, the best foundation to become a fighter.
Well, and as long as you have a good coach, the life skills that wrestling teaches you all the way along. You get done with your match, win or lose, you shake the guy's hand, look him in the eye. Your arm gets raised or it doesn't, but you stand there. Yep. That's respect. You can get pissed off when you get behind the bleachers, but if you throw a fit, everybody sees you. And if you got a good coach, you're off the team.
Yeah. No, and that's one thing that I liked about fighting in jiu-jitsu is like there's going to be a winner and a loser. And everybody understands that going in. And for very few people, does it always go your way. So you get to learn like what victory tastes like. You get to learn what defeat tastes like. And bro, those are all important life lessons for people growing up.
Well, and the way I've heard it said and the way I've said it ever since the first time I heard this is you get comfortable with being uncomfortable. The uncomfortable point in your life, I mean, I've been through a lot lately with custody battles and, work stuff that just sucks. And it's easier when you've grown up being uncomfortable and knowing that you can get through it.
Yeah. No, I talk about it on my show all the time, calling it microdosed adversity and all the little shit that you can do through working out, through training, through even reading. There's things that will inevitably make you a better person, but it's not always comfortable. You don't want to sit down and read a book that sucks, but it's the same thing. Like I sit in the ice tub, I sit in my sauna, all these little things that I'm constantly putting myself through to find comfort in uncomfortable situations. And then you get that on the mats as well. And when you're able to be comfortable in situations that most people would find discomfort in, now you have a leg up on them. That's the reality of the planet that we live in,
Right.
So how old were you when you became a trooper then?
21.
20. Oh shit. You were one of them.
2-time college dropout, worked several part-time jobs, and I guess I just interviewed good. That's
Okay.
about the only thing I can think.
How long ago was that?
That would have been 2013.
Okay.
July of 13.
So you've been with them for a while then.
Yeah. Yeah, I was stationed out of Hermiston, was my first office. That's in the northeast part of Oregon. And
Is that where you grew up?
no, I grew up in John Day.
Okay.
Out in the mountains.
No, dude, I'd never heard of Hermiston until about a year ago. And I bought a puppy, and the breeder is a Jack Russell breeder, and she was out of Hermiston.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, we did, it was like a 6 or 7 hour drive to go pick up our puppy.
It's an interesting place. We got our last puppy out of Oregon, which is like 6 miles northwest of Hermiston.
Okay.
Even smaller.
Yeah. So then when you became a trooper, and I guess it's the same, do you not know where you're going to be stationed?
So it used to be with Oregon that you could be like, well, I grew up in Salem. I'd like to work in Salem. They'd be like, okay, how's the Grand Sound? And, but now they actually do really try to put you close to where you are familiar with or where your family is if you got a family. I was 21, and like I said, 2-time college dropout, and I thought, I'd be on thin ice if I even thought about asking for a different spot. But they're like, how's Hermiston sound? I was like, well, I hate Hermiston, but I'll go there.
Yeah.
I'll work there. And turned out to be probably the best place that I could have learned to work.
What makes you say that?
There was every kind of work that you could want.
Okay.
So you have Interstate 84, several state highways, several smaller state routes, and Interstate 82 that goes into Washington. So, there was Interstate 82 and Highway 730 that both came out of Washington into Oregon. So if you wanted to do drug interdiction, which I never got the opportunity to really get good at it because it's hard to get good at that unless you work around people that are good at it and kind of learn.
Yeah. Well, I guess that goes for anything in life, right?
Right. You could work traffic. We had one guy that's all he wanted to do was just go out and work traffic 10 hours a day, and I hated that. I like to sit.
Bro, I didn't want to talk too much shit on traffic because I'm sitting here with a trooper. But as an officer, that was like the worst part of the job for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know there was other aspects of being a trooper other than traffic.
Well, you can work in town, which is nice because you're any state or any public roadway you can patrol.
Okay.
And that's different than most other states. They're actually highway patrol.
Yeah.
And we're not. So
your jurisdiction then is just
anywhere. When I worked in John Day, I went back on dirt roads sometimes, just because I knew where people like to hang out when they were doing stuff they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
But no, it was cool because I could go work with the other agencies. And I always tell the local guys, like, you guys do a lot more real cop work than we do because we get crashes, DUIs, traffic complaints. They do domestics, the bar fights, all the more extreme stuff. And the cool thing about OSP and what was really cool about the sergeant up there at the time, he was like, hey, just go out and hammer out like 6 traffic stops in the beginning of your shift and then go do what you want. It's like, if you want to get into drug interdiction, go find a local guy and learn from him. Or if you just want to go assist and piggyback off the local agencies, do it. And so that's what I did. I couldn't stand being out on the highway all night.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing over and over. I hate repetitiveness, which is what's cool about the job is there's always an unknown.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I never worked for state patrol in Washington, so this is just kind of a perception, and maybe it's not accurate. But yeah, I always felt like that's what those guys did, is just sit on the highway day in and day out and respond to DUIs, which is maybe the worst thing in law enforcement, right?
Well, I actually enjoyed
Do you
DUIs,
like DUIs?
but that was before our hands were tied on what we could do with
Well,
them.
and that's what I was going to say. Like, at least in Washington State, and I know our state politics are kind of similar. Like, dude, in Washington State, you have what's called implied consent on your driver's license, right? I mean, if you're using public roadways and a police officer suspects that you're intoxicated, you agree to take a breathalyzer. And if you don't, your license is gone for 1 year, suspended for a year.
Right.
But they never, ever, ever follow through with that. And so if you want someone to take a breathalyzer and they say no, then you have to get a blood warrant. Then you have to take them to the hospital. Then you have to petition a judge. And there's a lot of examples of DUIs taking 8-10 hours with my department. And it's just fucking absurd, you know?
I was fortunate enough to have the experience with my first office that usually the sergeant, for some reason, almost every time I got a DUI that refused, it was the same sergeant. And he was based out of Pendleton, one of my favorite people on the department. And every time I got a refusal, I'd call him up. And he's really old school. And I'd be like, hey, I got a refusal. These are my indicators. And this is, basically what I saw. He's like, nope, lodge him. He's good. No warrant. He's like, refusal shows guilt.
Yeah.
So lodge him. And to my knowledge, I never had one of those dropped up there. And it 100% depends on the county.
Yeah.
And the DA's office. And, but now it's like, if you don't give it to him on a silver platter, they're like, oh, well, we're going to throw it out because it's too much of our time to actually fight for this person.
And what's interesting? It's not just DUIs. It's every single aspect of law enforcement. They throw it out. And I don't know about you guys, but we used to get emails from the prosecutor's office, and it's like, I'd like to thank you but for putting this case together and filing these charges. Unfortunately, at this time, we've decided to decline. Please don't let this discourage you from submitting future cases. And it's like, you can write that and that sounds good, but how many times do cases get refused before it does start to discourage you? Because you're out there, you're working, you're doing your thing, you're putting energy into something. But most importantly, like, police work is inherently dangerous, right? If you're out there looking for crime and you're addressing it and you're making stops and you're making arrests and it's all for nothing, like, what am I doing?
Right. Well, look at Oregon specifically in the drug world, as far as drug interdiction stuff. So now if you get caught with a gram of certain drugs like meth, heroin, or whatever, it's $100 citation for your first offense. A seatbelt citation is $220. So tell me which one's worse.
Yeah.
And, you have these guys that are really passionate about getting drugs off the road. And now you're like, okay, well, what's the point?
Yeah.
Give them $100 ticket. And the way they wrote it in the bill was stupid, and it confused a lot of people. Was like, okay, so by doing this, they'll get more opportunity at rehab and whatnot. I can't tell you how many times I've seen guys arrested for drugs, and the judge says, all right, you get 90 days in rehab or 90 days in jail. And they pick jail.
Yeah.
Because they hang out with their buddies, they get to BS and, learn new, I guess, tricks to the trade.
And the reality of addiction is, if you're not willing to help yourself, no one else can help you.
Right.
Right. And so any forced rehabilitation, good luck with that. But you know how we know they're full of shit when it comes to, like, oh, we're trying to clean up our community, we're trying to help people, we're trying to rehabilitate people. Go drive through fucking Portland. Go drive through Seattle. Like, the cities have become drug-infested shitholes. Seattle just got awarded like one of the top crime cities for car prowls and petty theft and property damage and that kind of stuff. Top city in the country. And it's like, you're not saving anybody, you're not helping anybody by being tolerant of this stuff. We need to start figuring out a way to clean up the cities, and they're not willing to do it. And then the police are kind of stuck in limbo, because it's like everyone expects the profession to be like the front line against this kind of stuff and defending the communities. But if they're not prosecuting stuff and the court systems aren't backing you up, it's just a revolving door. You take people to jail, they're out the next day. And it's like, I mean, my last use of force, I broke my hand on this guy's head. And he was high on PCP. He had stolen a car. He was ramming into people. He smashed my partner's car, like just completely belligerent and violent. And I beat the shit out of this dude when I took him into custody. And then I find out that, and we charged him with, I want to say like 5 felonies. I forget exactly, right? And booked him. Dude, they let him walk the next day, right? And we're like, he was booked on 5 felonies. And the prosecutor reached out to me and my partner and apologized. Like, yeah, we didn't really realize who we had here. I guess we should have looked into this a little deeper. So it's just becoming a revolving door. They're not even looking through casework like they need to make sure, like, the repeat violent offenders, oh, maybe this guy shouldn't be getting kicked out the next day. Come to find out, this same dude fought 7 police officers in a neighboring jurisdiction the night before. And then they kicked him out, and then he came into ours, got high, stole a car. We fought him, stacked up another 5 felonies, and they kicked him. And it's just, it makes you reach a point when you're like, what am I even doing this for? What's the point of all this?
Right.
You know? Because, dude, this dude was a big 265-pound Samoan. There's a good chance it could have gone bad for me. You know, like, I'm a pretty confident fighter, but as a confident fighter and someone that trains and you wrestled your whole life, you know this. You never know who knows what. There's always somebody bigger, badder, and tougher.
Right.
And it's like,
I was just going to say that same thing. There's always going to be someone, and they're always the unassuming ones too.
And I like fighting for sport and for fun. I don't want to fight people as a police officer because now you're interjecting like the possibility of weapons, diseases, needles. Like, I mean, I don't know if the jurisdictions you worked had like Walking Dead problems where there's people just walking around basically rotting because they're hot. They're like, the methamphetamine has taken such a toll on their body. I don't even like searching those guys when I'm arresting them.
Right.
The last thing I want to do is roll around in the dirt with them.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Open scabs and stuff. Yeah.
I mean,
so my last use of force, I got in a fight with a guy in a diaper, and he was my age. And I was north of a town called Terrebonne on Highway 97. He goes by me. It was a short pursuit. He crashes. And then I got the mic glued into my hand because I was calling out the plate as he's getting out of the driver door. He's posturing to me. You know, we talk about indicators of threat indicators.
Mm-hmm.
So like balled up fists, you know, posture, bladed stance, 1,000-yard stare, all this
He
stuff.
had every single pre-assault indicator, huh?
And he's this little skinny guy. And I mean, thank God he was not experienced at all and it went fast. But, you know, we were rolling around on the ground and I had surface abrasions on both my forearms. He was bleeding from the head because I souffled him and on the pavement.
Uh-huh.
And then his pants started to kind of slide down as he was struggling. I noticed there was a diaper. I was like, oh, shit. And then he starts yelling, I'm HIV positive.
Yeah, you beat up a dude with a diaper.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to have some of it on video. They took my computer.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, he starts yelling, I'm HIV positive. And I've got these scratches all over my arms from the pavement. And, you know, luckily, long story short, it all panned out well. I obviously didn't catch HIV, but he was spitting blood at the nurses.
And was he legitimately HIV positive?
Yes. Yeah. He did come back HIV positive. He was on meth and weed, and he had HIV and tertiary syphilis. And tertiary syphilis eats holes in your brain.
Fuck, dude.
So that plus meth is a killer combo.
So for everybody listening, I want you to think about that. Like, there's a lot of hate for cops right now, you know? And the thing, and I'm not saying a lot of it's not justified because there's a lot of cops doing fucked up shit.
I've worked with bad cops.
Yeah.
And nobody hates bad cops more than
good
ones,
cops, right? But it's like, that's a reality of your job is that one moment you're sitting there on patrol enjoying a coffee, and the next minute you're fighting some dude who's high on drugs with HIV bleeding all over you.
Right.
Like, that's a fucking tough job. And anyone that doesn't appreciate it, they're not being realistic, you know?
And they don't, like we talked about this beforehand too. We'll go in a little deeper because it's important just for everyone to understand. So I've been teaching defensive tactics. It's basically self-defense and offensive defense, I guess if that makes sense, for law enforcement.
Defensive just sounds better.
Right. So how to recognize what is coming at you and react to it. So coming from a wrestling standpoint, You train for hours. You do the same move thousands of times. You build muscle memory. We teach it in the academy for a total of, let's just say, like 60 hours in the academy to each recruit class. And then once they get out, we teach that 3 times a year.
Yeah.
So there is no possible way to build muscle memory off that. And unless they practice or train on the outside, they have zero muscle memory. So we were talking about the kind of people that are being hired now. So I've seen a huge shift where there might be 5 meat eaters that have been in fights or done contact sports or would probably be able to handle themselves for a short period of time. And,
and this
probably
is per academy class of what, 30?
About 30, we'll say 30. And, then you'd have like probably 3 that shouldn't be there, and the rest just kind of fall in the middle. Now, one, because they can't get people interested in the job anymore. We used to have like 2,000 applicants and get 30. Now we have like 300 or 400 applicants, and they try to get like 30 or 20.
Dang. So, yeah, they're drawing from a much smaller pool now.
Right. And I don't know if they actually think that, this guy's been in a fight before, or, he was arrested for like reckless driving or something small. And, 8 years before, but they're squared away. They interview well. Their psych goes well, but no, they're a liability because they have a crime on their record. Or like the last guy that I did a background on, he had used mushrooms 10 years before,
and they fucking
and they didn't pick him up. I don't know if they. I assume so. He was squared away, had the same job for 10 years, and at this job, they do random drug testing every 2 years, and I know that because I worked there for a while. And they didn't pick him up, and he would have been a good one. And his supervisors are all like, well, when we have problem customers, he's the one that we send to go talk to him, because they always end up leaving with a smile. Like, this is the dude that we need.
Yeah.
But then they don't pick him up. But they'd rather pick up, like I said before, the pencil pusher who has got a college degree because they look really good on paper.
Yeah.
But tell me what's more of a liability down the road, someone who starts stuttering once you put them under a little bit of stress in the academy, but they're smart, right? Because they have a degree.
Yeah, dude. And we all know college degrees, they don't really mean anything. I mean, right. I joke about it on the show all the time, is that I graduated college with a 3.8, and I was 33 years old. I was a deputy at the time with kids I basically do all my schoolwork on Sunday. But the only reason I did is because the military paid for it. And I was like, I'm not letting them keep that money, right? It didn't benefit my life in any way, shape, or form. It didn't make me any more employable. It didn't make me any more intelligent. I got in sports and exercise science just because that's something that I kind of enjoy. But it kind of opened up like what a sham college is. Because I think obviously there's very specific jobs that need higher education, doctors, lawyers, whatever, right?
Right.
But just to have it be the normal pipeline, oh, you graduated high school? Congratulations. Keep going to school. Well, what for? You know?
Right.
And I was like you. I didn't try college right out. I went right into the military because I knew I hated school. I wanted nothing to do with that shit. But it doesn't make more qualified applicants. And it's bizarre to me that jobs like law enforcement are now making that a requirement, you know? Right. Meanwhile, a guy who took shrooms 10 years ago, the truth of that is whoever's disqualifying him for using mushrooms needs to go out in the woods and eat some mushrooms. You know, like kind of ground themselves a little bit, see what that's all about. And I mean, that's a whole other subject, but all drugs are not created equal. I mean, we were both law enforcement officers for pushing a decade. How many people's lives did you see ruined by magic mushrooms? You know, none, right. Dude. And so
right. I call them the ear biters, the meth. Once they get into meth, they're gone.
Yeah, meth. At least in Seattle, I know drugs are geographical too, but like in Seattle, it was meth and heroin, and well, now it's fentanyl. That's like, did you see much? Right. Did you see any of that coming in?
No, because all the drug rules and search and seizure stuff, and like, did you ever use NIC kits for drug testing?
Yeah,
we can't use those anymore.
Why?
They just. I don't know. Part of it is because of the fentanyl.
Because of how dangerous it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think
you saw that.
I think that was like 3 years ago they told us we couldn't use NIC kits anymore.
Did you see that, I think he was a county deputy down in San Diego.
One that like stumbled over backwards because
it started ODing and they had to narc him.
Right.
Like, and bro, that's some scary shit, dude.
Yeah.
I actually just had a kid who's on my jiu-jitsu team, 17 years old. Took a party pill and it fucking killed him 48 hours ago. And it's like, this isn't like, you always hear about how dangerous fentanyl can be. And I've heard about it as a police officer, but to have it happen on like someone that I share the mats with, someone that's one of my students. And it makes you realize, like, fuck, man, when we were growing up, we knew, like, I mean, yeah, okay, marijuana or mushrooms or alcohol, kind of like the party drugs or whatever. And then there was the people that pushed it a little harder, were like, try cocaine, or I remember when meth was called crank, you know?
Right.
And it was like, but even the people that did that, it wasn't, even though your DARE officer told you, you can try drugs one time and die, I never saw that growing up. I saw people get addicted to drugs and then become junkies. Yeah, that was a path that I saw people take, but I never saw someone try a drug and then they're dead. And that's happening all the time now with kids.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's a dangerous time because, like, I'm sure you've seen that meme. It's like a picture of a penny and then it's like 3 crystals of fentanyl next to it to kind of give you like a size comparison. It's like, this is what a lethal dose of fentanyl looks like.
Yeah.
And now they're replacing like oxycodone or even like ecstasy is having fentanyl put in it, and you're fucked, man. One bad pill and you're done.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, really, it all comes down to the accessibility of the drugs now because there's no repercussions for them. There's, I mean, like I said, $100 violation citation for your first time with a gram of meth.
And bro, and the truth, I mean, there's a part of me that's like, I lean more libertarian these days with my political views. And it's like, if you want to lock yourself in your house and put drugs into your body, like, I don't care about that. There's a part of me that thinks like, let people do what they want. And if it fucking kills them, I don't care. But a 17-year-old kid on my jiu-jitsu team just died.
Right.
So where's the balance of that? It's like, yeah, I understand that. I mean, I'm a big freedom person and so are you, right?
Right.
But when it starts fucking infiltrating your community and it's fucking killing kids, it's something that needs to be taken serious.
Right,
and I don't know what the answer is necessarily, but it's not just giving everybody free reign because we're seeing what that's doing to our cities and it's turning them into absolute shitholes.
Right. Well, my wife and I, we've talked about that several times, how like when we were in high school, I mean, it's 10 years ago now, but when kids were smoking weed, you were like, oh shit, that's serious stuff. But now there's kids like 15-year-olds that are trying to get meth and it's insane. It
is insane, man. And it's one of those things that's like, as parents, and my kids are 6, 9, and 12. So my oldest is reaching that age, and I have real talks with her, and I don't try and sugarcoat it to the point where like I talk to her about marijuana and that this drug isn't that bad. This drug is that bad. Because I feel like if I try and give that just blanket approach as a parent, stay away from drugs, okay? That's not giving her like very good tools to navigate through what she's going to be navigating through as a teenager.
Right.
You know, if she's at a party and all her friends are smoking weed and she takes a hit off a pipe, like, okay, I'm not advocating that my daughter goes and does that. But I want her to know that that's not going to be the end of the world. But if you take one of these little pills, it's likely that it could be.
Right.
You know, and it's a scary place to be. How old are your kids?
8, 5, 6, and almost 2.
Oh, you have a whole entire herd, dude. Yeah.
That's why we have big vehicles.
Dude, I saw the H1 at the bottom of the hill. Is that yours?
No, it's not mine. It's you might have heard of him, Patty Mayo. He's on YouTube.
No, so I don't know Patty.
He does like fake sheriff's office and fake bounty hunting shows, and like he's pretty extreme.
Oh, you
on
know
his
what?
Videos.
I already think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
But just don't know him by name.
Right.
Because they're fucking ridiculous, right?
Right. He's pretty extreme and like he's way over the top, but like he's really mellow in person. He just has that really good on-off switch that I mean, I guess that's what like actors have. But no, I do fab work on the side. And once we moved here, I didn't have a shop to work out of. So it's just kind of sitting there until I can get space to weld on it. But yeah, okay. I'm outfitting it.
That's cool, man. Yeah, you know, I was actually thinking about this because we connected, I don't know what, 3 or 4 days ago.
Saturday.
And
because I was hunting.
That's right. Yeah, and that's what you said. You said, hey, I'm out hunting. And so I was like, oh, it's cool. This guy's out doing his thing still. And like, that's his, I'm sure, as a lot of hunters, that's a passion of yours.
Yeah, I haven't got to do it a whole lot probably the last 10 years. I've been able to do it just a little bit. But yeah, it's nice to get out, especially with all this going on. It's quiet out there. You just shut everything off. And
then the next time we touched base, you said, hey, I'm out welding. And I was like, dude, this guy does all kinds of shit, you know? But the truth is like, then the reason I bring this up, this is an important message that police officers need to hear, because I'm sure you're hearing the same thing here down in Oregon, is that people that are either afraid to stand up when they know that they don't want to speak out just because they're in fear of losing their job, or now it's not even speaking out anymore. It's falling in compliance with the vaccination. If you don't get the vaccine in Washington as a police officer by October 18th, they're saying you're fired.
Right.
And I want police officers to know is like law enforcement is not the end all be all. Like you still have an entire world out there of opportunity. And I mean, I was nervous when I lost my job because I was making good money and had good benefits. And it was like, fuck, dude, this is going to be potentially a big problem. And then life works out for you, man. If you put the energy into the right things and you keep grinding, like don't sacrifice your morals or your ethics or who you are just for your paycheck. And that's what a lot of people are finding themselves doing because they're afraid to step outside of that comfort zone. But the other side of it is if everybody would speak up together, this would have been done a year ago.
Right.
You know? And I've been calling for police officers. I mean, you heard me on Andy Frisella's show, right? And that's crazy, dude. And that's kind of like what connected us initially. But if all police officers would just say, hey, you know what? Like, we serve the communities, we serve the citizens, and we're not going to adhere to all these ridiculous requirements and mandates that are just being pushed down by a governor or a mayor or city council. So we're done. And you would only have to have all police not show up to work for one day. And it would be absolute pandemonium. And everyone would change their tune very quickly.
Oh, yeah. Well, and like we said, why are they going after these frontline workers first? It should be pretty obvious. I mean, you've got medical workers. Think about it, too. A group that's overlooked is ODOT. So in Oregon, that's our Oregon Department of Transportation.
Mm-hmm.
It's our highway maintenance. It snows a lot here on this side of Oregon, a lot. And they're like old loggers, construction workers. They're all pretty conservative group of guys. And their numbers are going to be dwindling. So you've got icy roads that are unpaved. You have crashes right and left. Not enough cops available to come help. No medical workers. So that means like EMTs, fire. They're going to be thin. Then you get to the hospital, and it's not that there's a lack of beds, there's a lack of people to maintain the number of beds.
Yeah.
So all the way through, like, we'll just use crash for an example. From the crash to the follow through, we're going to have so many more people die just because there's nobody available to respond.
And it is, man. At this point, you can't say this isn't some type of calculated offense against the American people. Right. It has to be at this point, and like you said, it starts with all the frontline workers and the first responders. Get rid of all the good ones, keep only the ones that fall in line. But even the ones that stay and fall in line, that's not going to be enough to make the world go round.
No.
Like we're going to have, and here's the thing, you never know. Because people do polls and they take, like how many people are going to quit if you have to get the vaccine. But I've been hearing a lot of places say they're going to lose 30 to 40%. Like,
right. And you look at the number 30%, you're like, well, that's not a lot, but
it is for most departments because most departments are understaffed as is.
Way understaffed.
Yeah. Like think about taking 30% of, well, you guys don't call them departments. What are your groups called?
Area command, outposts, yeah.
But still, like, regardless of how it's structured, you get rid of 30% of your people. and like you said, hiring slowing down too. Good luck, dude.
Well, yeah, and then the quality of hiring also. And the number that are hired. Like, even though we might fill all the classes that we want to fill, but we get more dropouts in the academy, and then we get a way higher percentage now that don't make it through their probation.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's just a big problem. I kind of went down a rabbit hole there.
Go down rabbit holes, dude. This card has 9 hours left on it.
So you were talking about like guys being nervous to stand up, and how obviously if even if 50% of them stand up, that'll turn it around. That would be the game changer, right there. So I was talking to a guy that's a buddy of mine back home. And his nephew's a trooper also. I'm not going to mention names. But his nephew has like 2 kids, I think, and he's one that I talked to early on, right after my video kind of hit the wall and exploded. And then he was like, "Yeah, I kind of want to do the same thing." I was like, "Well, do it."
Do it.
But then this buddy of mine, his uncle, I was talking to him last night, and he's like, "Yeah, I've been trying to motivate him to do it," and he just keeps saying like, "Well, I got kids to provide for," and he just they don't understand. I mean, I would bet that 90% of us, whether they got a vaccine or not, are on the same wavelength as far as all
100%.
that's going on.
Yeah.
Like, but none of them will stand up.
Bro,
And
I mean, if you heard me on Frisella's show, you heard me say it. It, at least in my department, it wasn't split like 80-20 or 70-30. 100% of the police officers that I worked with are disgusted with how the profession is being used and portrayed and being used as henchmen to implement all of these ridiculous mandates that are not state law. And nobody supports it. But for whatever reason, most people are afraid to speak out against it.
well, and I've said this a million times the last couple of weeks. It's the law of progression. So they make you wear masks. Yeah, I can do that. Oh, 6 foot spacing. Yeah, I don't really like people that much, so I can do that. I can stay away from them.
Yeah.
And then, it's a little more and a little more. Baby step, baby step, baby step. Now you're going to lose your job if you don't get the vaccine by October 4th, actually, because you have to get both of them before the 4th for it to be
fully immune.
right.
But yeah.
Quote.
Yeah. It's such a crock of shit, dude.
Yeah.
And again, like, and I hate it when people are like, oh, trust the science, or people will say to me, you're not a doctor. Well,
I've got some pretty close friends that are doctors, and they're not going to get the vaccine.
Yeah, me
and
too.
They're very science-based.
But here's the other thing. I don't have to be how many people had opinions on the profession of police work over the last 24 months that weren't police officers?
There's a lot of experts out there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you can look at a situation, you can read data, and you can listen to people, and you can come to conclusions as a critical thinker, as an intelligent human being, not being outside of the profession, right? And so you only have to look at this vaccine and detach emotionally, because they're trying to make everything about emotions. The kids are dying and like the hospitals are filled up, but detach emotionally and you can see this isn't something that's being pushed for our well-being. This is agenda driven. And you know how you know it's agenda driven? When have you ever had to convince people of something that's good? You shouldn't have to convince people of good. Good represents itself. Good speaks for itself.
Right. Well, look how it started. You get free Sonic. You get 2 Krispy Kremes if you get the vaccine, and that didn't work. And now they're using intimidation and coercion.
Yeah, which are illegal.
Yeah.
Like,
It's discrimination.
Yeah, you know what I'm
all
saying?
3 of those words are illegal.
Yeah. And bro, and it's funny because you text me on my drive down here asking me if I watched Biden's speech today. So I listened to it in the car before I got here. And everything that he is doing is discriminatory, and it is illegal, and it is unconstitutional. And people just continue to sit back and take it. Like he said, every company that has over 100 employees, mandatory vaccination. What?
Well, he offers weekly testing for them too, supposedly, for now, anyways.
Yeah.
And yeah, for now. That's not going to last long, though.
But that's none of your fucking business. And I don't have to stick some shit into my brain every week because you think that I should. Right. And I don't have to fucking take your vaccine because because you think I should. And it's funny because as soon as I saw that, I was like, I got to text this to Andy Frisella, because First Form has, I think, like 500 employees, right? So I went to his story. Obviously, a bunch of other people have already hit him up, and his response was just a bunch of laughing emojis. And he writes, yeah, okay. Right. But here's the thing. People need to draw hard lines. And then once you've drawn that line, there should be nothing that can cause you to waver or change your mind or back down. Because I've actually had people that I'm friends with, like, I don't want to take the vaccine. I don't like the science behind it. I don't trust it. I think there's something dirty going on here. But man, I got 2 kids and I'm the breadwinner. And if it comes down to it, I'll have to. And it's like, I think you're looking at it incorrectly, because by saying I'll have to, I feel like you're admitting that they have power over you. You're admitting that you're almost a slave, right?
I like you mentioning bringing their kids into it, because that's what really started me on this. Was once you have kids, if you're a good parent, you realize that you're preparing the future for them now.
Yeah.
Your future is going to be what it's going to be. But if you are sitting down and being quiet and falling in line and letting this progression go over and over and over and farther, what future are you preparing for your kids?
Yeah. And what lessons are you teaching them by being compliant
Right.
and not standing up for what you believe?
Right. Well, I mean, we teach our kids, like, if someone's getting bullied, go stand up for them. You never start a fight, but you punch someone in the mouth if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
And, if there's someone sitting alone by themselves, go be their friend. Stand up for what's right is what that is saying.
Yeah.
Do what's right. Put action to what needs to be done. And sitting back and saying, well, if it comes down to it, I'm going to have to get the vaccine, because I got to have a paycheck. You can make it work, especially as cops. Look at the skills that you build. Communication. That's like probably one of the big. You could go work at any retail store. If you had to, you could.
Yes. And that's actually something that a lot of police officers say to me is like, I don't know anything else other than this. And I like what you just said. Actually, you have a lot of skills.
Well, you type reports. And if you're seeing your arrests go through without being dropped, then you write okay, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And communications, you talk to people all the time. If you're not an asshole, you could probably go work anywhere that takes any sort of communication skills.
Yeah, for sure. But man, like that, the president's speech was just like, I don't want to say I was surprised because I feel like we all know what's coming down the pipe is that they're not going to stop.
Well, he didn't hold back at all. Like, there's going to be like 500 memes just from that one speech. Like, every sentence he said was something stupid over and over. Like, we have to protect the vaccinated from the unvaccinated. So, like, if this vaccines is great, as you say, what are you protecting?
Yeah, what the fuck are you talking about? No, and I honed in on that too because he said a couple things like we're getting sick and tired of the unvaccinated, and it's my job to protect the American people, and I understand your anger against the unvaccinated. Like they're already starting to build the narrative that we're the bad guys, you know?
Well, and what's kind of surprising to me is that since this Instagram thing blew up, there's been a lot of messages from people saying, I got the vaccine, but I support you in, not wanting it to be mandated and not wanting to enforce it. Like, this isn't about whether you're vaccinated or not
100%.
For the most part, but there's a lot of support on this side from vaccinated people.
I actually know a guy, and he's right up the street from here in Bend, and he was vaccinated, and he's a firefighter, and he said, you know what? they're going to have to fire me on the 18th, not because I'm vaccinated or I'm unvaccinated, because I'm going to tell them that my medical choices is none of their fucking business.
Well, medical choices, religion, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, like, I could fill out the religious exemption, but I hate the way they worded it because it's worded. What's the wording? It's bothering me. A sincerely held religious belief.
So, yeah, do I have to go prove? What do I have to do to prove my sincerity to my religion?
You do. So my mom and my sister, my mom works in the medical field. My sister works at the school. And they both had to fill this out. And they basically have to write a little paragraph as to what their religious belief is and why the vaccine doesn't fall within that. But then it goes under review. So it has to be approved by someone. And this someone, in most cases, is probably someone who's pro-vaccine and anti-everyone else.
Yeah.
So my belief is my belief, but you get to tell me if it's legitimate?
Well, and our fucking governor, who's equally as worthless as our president, he said in a speech the other day when he was talking about when they came forward and said all first responders have to get vaccinated by this date or face termination. And he said religious exemptions will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, but philosophical exemptions will not be considered. So, like, try and wrap your head around that. It's like, I don't care what religion you are. If you are a religious person, you believe in the Bible or you believe in the Quran, whatever your religion is, they're going to take a look at that and then they're going to see if they'll agree with you or not, right? But if it's philosophical, meaning that it's not religious based, it's just how you feel as a person, it's your own philosophy, it's your own opinion, Yeah, we don't care about that. To come straight out and say that we don't care what your philosophy is on this. That's fucking outrageous.
Well, they're getting more bold every day.
Every fucking day, dude. And I'm telling you, and I'm not Nostradamus, but you heard it here first. For our children to be in public school, they will have to be vaccinated soon.
Yeah.
That's, it's approved. Because, dude, Biden was talking about today getting children. He was like, the children that are under 8 years old or under 12 years old, we have scientists reviewing the data and making sure that it is safe before we give the green light. You know what that means.
That means nobody's reviewing it. They're just going to give it a couple weeks and be like, oh, yep,
we're good. And he even said, like, I know all you parents out there with young children are just waiting for the opportunity to get them vaccinated, and we're trying to get it done as fast as we can. So they're pushing it. And I know that the next couple steps is going to be our children to be part of public schools, and then they're going to say everybody to fly on airlines. That's next, man. And then I'm fucking stuck in Washington and Oregon, you know?
So back up 3 years and the big measles outbreak we had and all the anti-vaxxers that were out there, those are the exact same people that are just hot and heavy on getting the vaccine. So what happened? Why this big flip? Because there was so many, there was all these vulnerable people getting measles because they can't get vaccines. They're the immune compromised. However you say it. Now, that's the exact same group of people that's pushing this vaccine. So what happened to the medical freedom we had 3 years ago? These people were still standing up saying, oh, no, we're anti-vax, blah, blah, blah. What changed?
When you take a look at this and you just, like I always say, is like detach emotionally and just look at what's going on here. At a minimum, this is to make people billions with a B. Billions of dollars in wealth are being created. Big pharma is getting rich. Pfizer's making more money than they know what to do with. And you think the politicians that are fucking just pushing this aren't going to get kickbacks? Of course they are. It's dirty on a lot of different levels. But how dirty is it? And I don't know, man. Like, there's a lot of people that are fucking smarter than me that are like, no, this vaccine is going to compromise your immune system to a point where you won't be able to fight off the fucking cold in 36 months from now. And yeah, I mean, dude, the studies are out there. The ferrets, every ferret died in the trials. Right. Every single one, right? And they didn't die. It's not like they got injected and then they keeled over and died because they went into anaphylactic shock or something. Their immune system over time degraded to the point where their body could no longer sustain life. I mean, right. That's what happened to the ferrets, and I'm no fucking scientist, but that doesn't sound like that's something that I want to put into my children.
Right. Well, and like my wife told me today, she saw the stats that said 75% of people are now vaccinated, but COVID numbers are up 300% from when the vaccine wasn't yet.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I listened to a doctor, and I'm sure he's probably had his medical license revoked for saying this, but he was talking about how any type of virus that affects your respiratory system does not spike in July. It's like, we've never seen that before. Respiratory viruses spike in the winter. That's how it's been since the beginning of time. And then we just happen to have a respiratory virus spike in July. And he goes, and it's in direct correlation to the fucking amount of vaccinated people. And so I'm telling you, dude, like, there's a part of me that hates all this shit that's going on because it's frustrating and like it makes you want to fucking take back your country and fight for our freedoms. But then there's another side of me that's like, we're living in wild times. And I think the next 36 months might be the craziest that this country has ever seen. And I'm kind of happy to be alive and be part of it. You know, like, that's the truth, man. Like, I don't want to be someone that just grinds at a 9 to 5 for 60 years and then I retire and I die. Like, that's not very fulfilling. That's not exciting. I look at my grandfather who just cut shingles at a sawmill for literally like 60 years. That's all he did, you know? But that was kind of that generation, you know? They just wake up and grind and do their thing. Right. But I'm telling you, dude, we are going to see the wildest times this country's ever seen in the next 36 months.
Well, we're already starting to see it around the world.
For
Look
sure.
at Australia.
Yeah, bro.
When was the last time that happened?
And why? And well, I'll tell you why, because they fucking took their guns, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think? And dude, I also have kind of lost faith. And I don't want to say that like pejoratively or like a doomsday prepper. I figured Americans would be more defiant than this. I
Right.
figured the profession of law enforcement would be more defiant than this. And you see like all those cops in France. Have you seen those videos of them chasing people around malls for not having masks on? What are our cops going to do when they turn the heat up on them a little bit? Because they're going to. All that stuff is coming here. I don't know when, but I mean, if you just look at what's happened in the last 24 months, that shit's coming here. So are they going to side with the people? I don't know.
That's why right now is the time to get loud.
100%, dude. And if like all the cops out there that agree with what we're saying, this is what I've been telling them. Being silent is complicit at this point. Because if you don't agree with this fucking evil machine that just keeps churning and turning and gaining momentum, if you don't agree with what is happening, but you're allowing it to gain momentum, man, you're part of the problem. And that's a fucked up thing to tell people because there's a lot of good cops that are just trying to make it work and they're trying to manage their lives because they got their bills and their mortgage and all the shit that we already talked about. But if you're not willing to fucking say, hey, I know this doesn't feel right and I'm not going to be part of it. If you're not willing to do that, you're allowing this to become what it's becoming. And then where's the end game, you know?
Right. Well, and I'm sure you had the same thing happen where, after your video, there was a lot of cops that reached out and they're like, hey, good for you, or we got your back, but then they don't say anything. They're quiet.
Yeah. And I mean, did you see my video initially or did you not?
I remember seeing it earlier on.
Yeah.
And after, I forgot your name after your show with Andy Frizella, but so how that happened was I was sitting in my car and I was having these thoughts about, like what we teach our kids. And, I felt like I needed to do something and didn't know what I needed to do. And I was way out in the middle of nowhere. And I listened to that podcast. And towards the end, you were pretty hot and heavy on if you're not going to say anything or do anything, then you're a part of the problem, like what you just said. And I was like, well, I was kind of on the fence. So now I guess I better do something. And
I love that, dude.
I made the mistake of not telling my wife about the video for 3 days, though. And
I didn't tell my wife either. I mean, I got put on leave the next day. So she found out quickly, but
well, see, mine, I mean, obviously it was kind of planned out. I didn't say the state I worked in, didn't say the governor's name, didn't say the agency. And I was kind of hoping that it would like fester and grow a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that was on Friday. And then the following Tuesday night, the video only had 180 views. And
so this was released on your Instagram? Is that?
So I tried to post it on YouTube when I made it, and they took it down twice. So the first time it was up for 15 minutes or so. And so I softened.
What I want to know what... Oh, wait, you had to make a different video?
No, so it was the same video. Okay. I tried to post it to YouTube, and they removed it, said I was spreading medical misinformation. Which I don't say anything fact-based on my video. I just said that I'm not going to enforce unlawful stuff. So
yeah, but a cop saying that is like powerful and they know it. Get this guy out of here.
Right.
Get this guy out of here.
Right. So after 15 minutes, it was removed. And then I softened the title of the video, hoping that maybe it wouldn't get caught and, go under some radar for a while. And I tried reposting it. And before it even got fully uploaded, it was taken down. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to put it on my personal Instagram. So I made a new Instagram. And I hashtagged a few things that I thought might catch some attention. But like I said, only 180 views over 4 days out of millions of people on Instagram. A trooper in Pendleton saw the video and he texted me. And I was like, what are the chances?
Yeah.
Out of 180 people in this world.
And he was one of them.
A trooper in Pendleton sees it.
And did you know this guy?
I know him.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's where our captain's based out of.
Got it.
In Pendleton, our East Region captain. And I was like, well, I guess tomorrow's the day. And it was the night before that, or it was that night. I think it was that night that my wife, she's like, I'm kind of irritated that you didn't tell me about this video until like yesterday. I was like, well, I mean, I operate off the fly. I mean, as a cop, you kind of get used to that.
Yeah.
And I just made the video and was, I was nervous about it. I didn't know if it was going to do anything at all. And I apologized. I was like, I'm not saying that I wasn't, or that I wasn't wrong in doing this, but would you have told me not to post it? She's like, well, it kind of needed to be done, I guess. So probably not.
So cool. That's her way of saying I support you. You know what I mean?
Right. And she's the worrier. She's big time the worrier. And so that was, at no point through this whole process have I felt guilt or regret.
Good.
And that was a big part of it, having the support. And like I said, my guys reaching out. So, some guys I haven't talked to in quite a while that I went through the academy with 8 years ago. And, other guys, my poor brother, he's been on the department 5 years longer than me. And I'm pretty sure that his phone blew up probably 5 times more than mine did.
Yeah.
Within the first few days of this. And he said out of everyone that reached out, it was all positive. One guy was kind of neutral, but he said he's like a lieutenant colonel in the military, and he's kind of a
just an
chain of command
guy.
Indoctrinated
yes man.
Right. So he's like, well, and just so you know, I haven't told you this yet, but my family and I support you too. And
that's awesome. Well, I mean, in your video, even more so than my video, there's nothing that you said that anybody that believes in freedom, believes in like liberties and law and order, there's nothing that you said that anybody should have any issue with,
Right.
Nothing. But it's simply you saying to the system that wants to keep us all beat down, keep us compliant, keep us doing exactly what they say. It's you saying to them, I think you literally said it for verbatim, is like, I don't work for the governor. I work for the citizens.
Right.
How is that an improper thing to say?
Well, one of the problems in this, and I've had this feeling ever since the mandate came out, I've had a problem with the silence from the entire chain of command.
Yeah.
Then we had a Zoom meeting the other day with a bunch of other cops, and there were other guys that work for other sheriff's departments that are like, yeah, they're going to start pushing this mandate on us. They're going to start making us get vaccinated. So why does it take grunt low-level trooper? Why should he have to be the first one to stand out?
100%, dude.
It's
a lack of leadership.
There's already a lack of trust in the chain of command in almost every agency. I would almost bet my life on it. Why do we have to feel like we're being punished for not doing anything wrong?
Well, and I'll tell you, because most of the people, I know we used to say fuck up, move up, right? Like the
I've seen it.
Yeah, the worst people inside of any agency inevitably work their way to the top. And I have some different theories on that. But one of the reasons is like the good guys, the guys that are solid, that are good at their job, that operate under integrity, they're not trying to claw everyone's eyes out for the promotion. Like when the promotion comes, the promotion comes. And in the military, you don't have say in your own promotion. Like I got pulled into the hooch and they're like, hey, we're promoting you to sergeant today and you're taking a team. And I was like, I don't want that, But I like shamming out as what we call a tab spec 4 in the Ranger Regiment, where it's like, you've been around long enough, you're known as a good dude, but you don't have any responsibility, right? So it's like, that's a cool spot to hang out. But in law enforcement, it usually comes with a financial incentive. I know when I was in Los Angeles, like with my agency, the promotion to supervisor came with like a $25,000 raise.
Yeah, there's a pay scale bump for every promotion.
And I'm not saying with more responsibility, should you be compensated? Yes, I see that. But at the same time, you shouldn't be motivated to move up into a leadership position because it pays more. That's the wrong type of incentive. Right. And so you see leadership problems nationwide with almost every single law enforcement agency. And dude, I told my commander and my chief the same thing, because my commander told me, he's like, and dude, he's retired now and he still sends me messages on Instagram. He's like, I love your content. I love your message. I'm like, bro, you were part of the crew that fired me.
Yep.
And he said, when I made the video, he goes, I support everything you say 100%. You're exactly right. You know where this is going, but you can't say that. And I told my chief, I said, imagine if a chief and a commander were the ones that stood up and said this. Think how much more weight that would hold. But no, it's everyone's so afraid to speak what they know to be the truth because you might get fired.
Well, like I said in my video, what oath did you take? If you're law enforcement, you're listening to this, what oath did you take? It doesn't matter what rank you are.
Yeah.
You took the same oath at some point.
That's right.
And like I said on Fox the other night, some people have forgotten that.
A lot of people have forgotten that.
I would say.
You know?
I mean, well, 99% of them because nobody's speaking up.
Yep. And like, I would rather stand behind my oath and stand behind what I know is going to be, when this is all said and done and we look back on this, if we're not all in concentration camps, like, we know what side of history we want to be on. We knew that 2 years ago, right? And so you could play this game and maybe navigate your way through these waters and you get to keep your job, but you're going to look back on this time and know you didn't stand up and do the right thing. And if anyone can hear a crying kid in the background, I always joke, dude, me and my guests, we're real people doing real life. So like, I'll have dogs run in my room and start barking sometimes, or you hear my kids cry. And I don't edit any of that shit out because real people doing real life have dogs and kids. So you might hear that. If you don't like it, turn the show off. But yeah, so you made that video. What is it still up on that Instagram that you made?
Yeah,
specifically
so it's funny,
for that video.
And I don't have any actual proof of this.
Oh, getting shadow banned?
Yeah,
bro, you're getting shadow banned.
Yeah,
well, I didn't know if shadow bans were real or not until my shit blew up.
Yeah,
it's a real thing.
So the first few days, I was getting several hundred. I would look at my phone like. And so I got to say, this is really weird for me because I'm usually the quiet, reserved person. I'm pretty shy. And so like all this, like the Instagram stuff is just weird to me. But like, look, I just opened the Instagram page. I haven't been on it for a couple hours. 0 likes, 0 comments, 0 messages. And the first few days, it was like every half hour, if I opened my phone, there would be 100.
Right. Yeah, that's right, dude. What is the title of the Instagram that the video got posted on originally?
So the Instagram is thinblueline_Patriot.
Thinblueline_Patriot. Got it. 3,100 followers.
Well, so let's see. It was basically found on Wednesday. So it's been up for a week.
Okay.
And day before yesterday, so Monday, I think was when it hit 100,000 views. It's grown 5,000 since Monday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to share this right now. And I'm going to see if we can get more traction. I'm going to try and get Andy to share it too.
That'd be sweet.
Because he has millions of followers,
That's the most surreal thing about this, and probably like that's like the biggest pride moment in all of this is like you and Andy were the two that, like I said, pushed me over the fence to make a video. And like I said, I knew I needed to do something, but I didn't know what it was going to be. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess I'll do what he did. And then, like I said, I was out in a tree stand on Saturday, and my wife's friend messaged me, and she's like, hey, there's this guy. And like I said, I couldn't remember your name from the podcast, but she said, there's this guy that got fired for making a video a year ago, and he's trying to get a hold of you. Can I give him your info? And then I was like, well, that's got to be the guy. So yeah. And then I saw you added me on my personal Instagram, and so I just shot you a message.
Yeah.
And then within probably 15 minutes, Andy had the info, and I was like, man, that was the most surreal part about this. And like, that was like the coolest thing.
Bro, it's really cool to see, like, I have a very tight network of people like local to me outside of Seattle that we call our tribe. And it's like people that if the world goes to shit, I know I'm going to be able to count on them. And it's comprised of a bunch of different backgrounds. Like some are metal workers, doctors, real estate people, like firefighters, all kinds of different people that kind of have created this group of people that we see eye to eye on stuff with. But once I made this video, I started building a network and connecting with people all around the nation and the world. And it's like, it really lets you see there's a lot more people that agree with what we are stating and the message that we are pushing than they want you to believe. You'll never know that according to social media or according to CNN. But there are way more people that agree with us than on the other side. And as I travel around, like I went to, do you follow Ian Smith? Do you know who he is?
Sounds familiar, but no.
He's the guy in New Jersey that kept his gym open during the pandemic.
Okay.
And now they're trying to put him in jail over it. And the governor there is like, it's become his personal mission to try and ruin his life. And so we all went out there, like people nationwide went to his gym like 2 weeks ago. And Andy went out there. And a bunch of like big personalities from the internet went out there, like influencers, or I don't even really like that term, but it's like people that have a lot of following. And it was pretty powerful to see. There's a couple hundred people there all pushing the same message. And everybody says the same thing. They're like, back in my community, I'm not hearing a lot of pushback. I'm feeling a lot of love and support. But when you turn your television on or you look at your phone, that's when you start to see like people that are against this movement of freedom and liberty. And it makes you realize it's like, it's just like the fucking, during the presidential campaign, Biden's rallies had 15 people and Trump's had 300,000, right?
Right.
So what's really going on here?
But they don't show that.
Yeah, they don't show that. I feel like there's a minority of Americans that want to push this agenda and push this narrative, and they're making everybody feel like isolated if you feel the other way. But we shouldn't feel isolated because we're the majority. Most people agree with us.
Every time something like this, the Holocaust, every time something like that or this has happened, it's been the minority that's been able to push, because the people who know better or are against it, they are quiet.
Yeah. And why are they quiet though? They are quiet because people are inherently controlled by fear.
Right.
And it's a weird thing, because the most liberating thing that you can do is be honest with who you are. Like I always say, like the words that come out of your mouth need to be congruent with who you are in your heart. Once you do that, you're set free, man. And it's like, do you know exactly what the world holds for you next? Like where you're going to work, or if you're going to get reinstated as a trooper, or what's happening? No, you don't know, but you're free. And that in itself, at least for me, man, that was one of the biggest takeaways from this. Is like, I had some reservations, like there was a part of me that's like, man, I know this has the potential to have a big impact on my life. But then I came to the same conclusion you did. I said, I don't fucking care. I believe that this is necessary to put out into the world. And if I weren't capable of putting that out there simply because of the job that I wanted to maintain, that just makes me feel like a slave. And I don't want to be part of this system if I feel like I'm a slave to the dollar,
Right.
I think that I say all the time, modern day slavery, they've replaced the whip with your paycheck.
Right.
And everybody is doing what they're told.
Well, and that's like, so I'm a Christian, but I've told several different people, like, you can look at it historically, or you can look at it biblically. Money always runs things into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Always. And we've had several people be like, oh, let's start a GoFundMe for you. How can we get, like, no, don't, because I have a focus right now, and I don't want that to be altered in any way.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're going to be fine, just because, I don't know. And I don't know why. I know we're going to be fine. I don't know if it's because I know I can weld good and that's going to be it. I don't know. I have zero idea, but I just know we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And like I said, look at Bill Gates.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at everyone else with money.
Yep.
There's always something dark.
Well, and I don't know if I would necessarily say everyone else with money, because there are some people.
Right.
There are some people that have made it that are strong-willed, like good human beings, you know. But and also, I would say to you, like, don't. I mean, I know you don't want anybody's money, and you're not asking for it, but at the same time, because people sent me a bunch. I did have a GoFundMe, and they sent me a bunch of money, and. You want to know the bizarre thing about it is because GoFundMes are public, they're public. You can access them and see exactly how many people donated and how much money they donated to you. And most of the money came in like 5s and 10s.
Right.
And so that was, and a lot of people liked having the opportunity to say, hey, you stand for good here's $5 for me, right? Which might not be a big deal.
Well,
but when a lot of people stand behind that, it does become a big deal.
Right.
And in the reality of the world that we live in is money does give certain opportunity. And so I would just say, man, like, I think like your morals and your ethics are aligned in the right places. But at the same time, if somebody wanted to donate to you or someone wanted to help you out, sometimes that's how the world's supposed to give back to you, right? This is a bunch of people that are aligned with you morally and ethically and want to support you. That's cool too, man.
Right. Well, like my wife and I talked about it too, because after she heard me turn some people down, she's like, well, because she's the money Nazi. That stresses her out more than anything else. And I was like, if it gets started, that's fine. And, we'll use what we need and we'll try to help people out at the same time. But like, I have a really hard time when someone is like, hey, can we start this for you? And like I said, for one, like morally, I feel weird asking for it,
of course.
or asking them to do it, or okaying them to do it. But at the same time, like I said, I don't want my focus to shift.
Yeah.
And like I told her, there will probably be help at some point, but I don't want to think about that right now.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. Yeah, you're focusing on the right mission. You're focusing on what matters, which is fucking really cool to see. So has your agency said, do you have any details on how this is playing out right now? Or are you just, hey, you're on leave pending investigation?
That's basically it.
Did they give you an opportunity to take it down?
No.
Okay.
No, and I wouldn't have expected them to, and I probably wouldn't have fought it at all at that point because I know what I did was against policy.
Yeah. See, my agency did say that. They said if you pull the video down now, you'll just get reprimanded for a policy violation, but you won't be terminated.
Right.
And then this is what they said to me that was even grosser, right? They're like, Greg, it's been ripped and shared hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times already. There's no getting it off the internet. We know that and you know that. But if you just take it off of your personal Instagram, that shows good faith that you're doing what command is asking you to do. I was like,
well, command should have done this first.
Yeah, dude. And I was like, yeah, I'll tell you what, you can fucking fire me.
Right.
Because there's a 0% chance I'm going to take this down to show command good faith, Right. And so the investigation for me took May, June, July, like 4 months. And then I got terminated.
Yeah. Well, I don't think mine will go any farther past October 18th because I'm still not taking the vaccine.
So has there been, because I'm removed now. I still have a lot of buddies in the profession and I keep hearing this date, October 18th. What happens? Is it literally like you show up to work on October 18th and it's like, hey, empty out your wall locker. You no longer work here. I mean, what are they saying is going to happen?
Well, any other time, if there was some kind of date like for you to do something on that date, they put you on admin leave.
Yeah.
And that should be how this plays out because that's the only point that they're going to know how many guys they're going to be short.
And you want to know what's gross about this is that if the number of people that they put on admin leave is sustainable, they'll move forward with firing.
Right.
But if the number of people is not sustainable, they're going to have to, we're going to have to reevaluate this. And then that's when your chain of command is going to become fucking heroes and your union are going to become heroes. And they're going to be like, well, we realize that 33% of, oh wait, I can't say 33 because that's like some secret Masonic number. People have been writing me hate mail because there's a 33 in my Instagram handle. So if 32% of officers say that they're done and you have to put them on admin leave, they're going to come to the conclusion, wow, we can't handle this. So now we're going to go to bat for you guys. Or now we're going to push back. Now we're going to fight.
Well, that's a problem. And so like I've talked to a few different guys. One was my brother in the last week. And unless they sent out like a survey on the email, since I haven't had access in the last week, they were all like, well, we've got to try to figure out how short we're going to be. Just shoot an email agency-wide. Just do it.
Yeah.
And if they have a problem with it, just be like, hey, respond to me, just so we can figure out where we're at. It shouldn't be like an, oh shit, last minute, we're short this many people.
But even that, even before that, the truth, if you're a commander or you're a chief, the way you move forward with this issue should be rooted in how you carry yourself as a human being and your morals and your ethics. It should have nothing to do with the percentage of people you're going to lose. And if
Right.
the chiefs that don't support this, they need to be fighting it now, even if it means losing their jobs too. And if they're not willing to do that, like no one wants to see you be a fucking hero on October 20th because your agency is understaffed. Nobody fucking cares at that point.
Well,
That's
if you turn
your
around
fault.
and you're like, well, we're going to fight it for you guys now, you're not a hero because of that.
No, you're a coward.
Yeah.
You know?
You should have done it 2 months ago.
And bro, I mean, the only way that this works out for everybody is if vaccinated and unvaccinated both come to the same conclusion. You don't get to tell us what we have to disclose to the agency. You know, this is our medical freedom. And if everybody would do it, think about that. If everybody would be like, even the vaccinated people say, yeah, I decided that I reviewed the data and I decided that it is something that I was willing to do. But when it comes to telling the agency what I did, go fuck yourself. It's none of your damn business.
Right.
And I mean, we'll see, man.
Well, like I said, I've gotten a lot of messages from vaccinated people saying they're against it being mandated. Like I said in the video, if you did it by choice, by your choice,
Yeah,
cool.
you're fine with that.
I will do everything I can to make sure that you still have that choice. Just it's the same thing as anything else. Just anything that can fall under being discriminated against. I will fight for you no matter what color you are, no matter what you choose, no matter what you are. I don't care. That's what freedom is.
Well, and every single police officer that I know, maybe not every single one, but 99% of them align with what you just said. Like the narrative of cops hating people for the color of their skin or for their politics or for their position on COVID, like none of it's true, man. Police officers serve their community as a whole. And that's what I saw my entire time in the profession, both in California and in Seattle. And those are both pretty big liberal cities, you know? So maybe it's like a different vibe up there. But still, it's just bizarre that people act like cops are just these fucking monsters. And that, I don't know, I feel like let me take a step back because I feel like you want to talk about this being calculated. I feel like the George Floyd narrative was pushed right before they started to really try and strip everybody's liberties away because they wanted to turn cops into monsters. They wanted to make everybody distrust the police, hate the police. I mean, it's always an uphill battle to try and have good relationships with your community as law enforcement.
Right.
But I felt like the profession as a whole was in a pretty good place until George Floyd.
Right. Well, and I mean, if you want to look at just a little more broad too, just they wanted to push more division.
Yeah.
The more division they can push en route to their final destination, the easier it's going to be for them once they get closer to that final destination.
Yep. But it's like, make the police feel like it's us versus them. Make the police feel like they're detached from their community. Make the police feel like everybody hates them. And then the other side of it is, I always say perception is reality, right? So if you're a young black kid in Compton whose older siblings are gangbanging, because that's what I dealt with when I was down there, right? And all they hear from all the media sources, every time they look at their phone, the other people in their community that are consuming all of this media is like, the cops hate you. The cops hate you. The cops are going to kill you. I mean, I'm sure you saw those videos where like black families are teaching their kids how to get pulled over so they don't get killed. Like, did you see any of that kind of stuff? Because that's how fearful they were, right? They were asking young black kids, these interviewers were going around during the BLM protests and being like, how many young black men were killed? Do you think were killed in the state of California last year by police officers? And they're like, thousands and thousands. And it's like, it was 4.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But perception is reality. So they're fed this narrative, they believe it, and now they're distrustful of the cops. Now they look at the cops as the enemy. And so it was choreographed where it affected everybody on both sides. And then the police felt like, I know my buddies were working like riots in Seattle, having bricks and Molotov cocktails thrown at them, squad cars getting burned to the ground. it was like a scene out of Mogadishu from Black Hawk Down, you know? And so everybody's fucking divided now. Now let's use our cops to start infringing on people a little more. And bro, it's the frog in the pot analogy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They just turn it up, turn it up. But I feel like the frog in the pot analogy, the end state is shit is boiling.
Oh, yeah.
And how far out is that? I don't know, man. But I don't think it's that far out.
I don't think so. Unless something changes, which I'm not very confident in right now.
Dude, nobody is, man.
Right.
Nobody is.
So I'm going to do a little test real quick. Did you see how many kids are in the house right now? So my two
I saw
older
two.
kids?
I saw two. I saw the little boy that was out here initially,
Right.
and then a little, what, a 8-year-old girl?
So she's 6.
She's 6. Okay.
Right. Did you notice anything about her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Their hair was different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So she's my wife's daughter from before we got married,
Okay.
but she's black.
Yep.
Right. So, but you saw a little girl.
Yeah.
You saw a little girl with pretty hair.
Of course,
right?
man.
That's what cops see.
Yes, dude.
They see, honestly, what we see is, oh, that's a nice car. That's a shitbag car coming out of a bad neighborhood. I'm probably might go talk to them.
Yeah.
We 90% of the time don't see what's behind the wheel. We 99% of the time probably don't see what's inside the car. You know, we might see little indicators here and there, but cops are not racist. There might be a couple. I've worked with a couple asshole cops that don't know how to talk to people,
Yeah.
but we see people. We're Americans,
Yep.
okay? And I mean, this narrative that's being pushed is obviously completely shredding the country, causing division. And some people are actually starting to see it, the ones that maybe didn't before. I can't tell you how many times my wife has had close friends message her on Facebook, Instagram, text, whatever it is. And like with the BLM stuff, they're like, hey, we know that you're married to a cop and he seems like a good guy, so we're glad that you have one of the good ones. I'm like, 99.9% of them are good ones.
Yeah.
What curtain are you living behind? Just go out and do your own research.
No, and it's such a, I mean, I've said this on the show so many times, is like, again, 10 years in the profession, I never saw racism. I never saw it. I mean, I was on it's called the SRT team, what was the equivalent of the SWAT team down in Los Angeles for my agency. And it was like 16 guys. We joke we were like the most racially diverse team ever. It was like 3 white guys, 3 Hispanic guys, 3 Asian guys, 3 black guys, right? And we would bust each other's balls about stuff, having fun.
Right.
There was zero racism that was really grounded in anything that had any merit, you know? Like, I didn't see it anywhere. And not only within ourselves and like officer to officer, but even more so how the officers interacted with the public. And it's really sad that we're living in a time where people can manufacture these emotions and manufacture these narratives, and then it gets pushed out into the world, and then that becomes people's reality. And then they're emotionally invested in it. And dude, as soon as someone's emotionally invested in something, good luck turning it around. It's fucking tough, man. You know?
Well, and agencies have things at their disposal that they can put out to the public that they don't. So one of the things that bothers me is just our current governor has talked about racism ever since George Floyd. So our agency, and I've seen the stats, the statewide stats, percentage based, which is the most fair way to put it, of, we track everything on traffic stops.
Mm-hmm.
And on the citation or warning that we have to fill out every time, it's an electronic deal. You put the race, the age, the gender, and usually it auto-fills because you just enter their driver's license number and it just jumps over onto your thing.
Yep.
But those stats show that at least the Oregon State Police is very prejudiced against white men. Percentage based, more of them get tickets, more of them get stopped, more of them get arrested. So why, when all this stuff is blowing up about cops being racist, why don't they just go throw that folder on whoever it needs to be put on their desk?
Well, and it goes back to what we know about everything is that they don't take numbers and data and statistics. In reality,
They don't care about it.
They don't care about it, dude. They take the narrative. And you know, one thing that I've heard a lot over the last year, and I've never talked about on the show, but I actually got a couple messages this week that it's like, you say most cops are good, but if by saying most cops are good, you're acknowledging there's bad cops. And if the good cops don't get rid of the bad cops, that makes all cops bad. Have you ever heard that?
So have you ever tried to get rid of a bad cop?
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
I've filed anonymous complaints, and recently a really good buddy of mine got stopped by a bad cop that I used to work for. The one that was my motivation to be a good cop when I was younger.
Yeah.
And he caught him in 3 lies. So he stopped him for 31 and a 25, which is asinine anyways.
Gross.
And
talk about making people want to just hate police officers.
Right. So then he cited him for 33 and a 25. And my buddy's like, well, what's this about? You said you got me at 31. He said, well, you were accelerating when I was turning around. So I did the math, and this is probably how fast you were going. So he takes him to court. It's a $115 citation. It's the lowest level citation you can get here for speed. And takes him to court and catches the trooper in 2 lies under oath. So one of them was like, well, the trooper said it took him 10 seconds to turn around when it took him 5, and he counted. And I can't remember what the other one was, but he filed a complaint with OSP, and I was interviewed. And I've had the opportunity to speak to several of this other troopers' recruits that he has trained, and they all have shady stuff to say, things that he stops people for that are not violations. So that's a pretty solid case if you look at it from a reasonable point of view.
Well, especially you said that motivated you to go into the profession in 2013.
Yeah.
So this has been going on for a substantial amount of time.
Right. So yeah, my buddy, he filed a complaint through our internal investigations, and the investigation took, I think, like 2 or 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent him an email and said that it was investigated.
Yeah.
But they won't tell him what the outcome was. But the trooper's still employed, so we know what happened. So, like I said, he caught him in 3 different lies. 2 of them were under oath during the trial.
Yeah, which should be a deal breaker. You're done.
Right. It's what's called Brady.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Like once you can't testify, once your integrity has been shot,
right,
you shouldn't be able to be in law enforcement anymore.
Right. So that being said, guys try to get rid of the bad cops.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason,
the system won't get rid of them.
The system, right.
So we had
the good old boy.
Yeah, we had a guy in Los Angeles, and I don't even want to say the good old boy because all the deputies and command hated him. He was a non-performer. He would be confrontational about stuff. Like if you tried to give him any constructive criticism, it was just like instantly fuck you. And nobody liked working with this guy. He was he was the poster child for being fucked up. And I'll tell you his name off.
They called a vampire.
Yeah, I'll tell you his name off air because it's fitting for who he was, but I don't want to put him on blast. They're like, well, we need to build a paper trail, and we need to start giving him negative counseling statements, and we need to start documenting everything that he does wrong, and we need to start. And bro, this was in 2011 when this first started. And my buddies that are in Los Angeles, they just hit me up like a year ago, and they're like, hey, he finally got fucking fired. It took a decade of documenting and building the paper trail, and then they finally got rid of him. And it's like, it's funny because I told this story on Andy's podcast. And did you remember what Sal Frisella said? He goes, here at First Form, it takes us 10 seconds to fucking fire somebody.
You say this was for a sheriff's office?
No, it's U.S. Marshals.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, I was with the feds for a while.
Okay, that's right.
And so I don't know if the federal government, because when I was with the port, there was a couple guys that they did try and terminate, and I saw one get terminated over. He got a domestic violence conviction. That's the fastest way out of law enforcement, and so I saw one guy get fired for that, and then I saw him try and fire another guy for like performance related issues. And I actually like this guy. He's a friend of mine. They were headhunting him, and he turned it back around on them. And the department had to fucking pay him a bunch of money and shit. So
Good for him.
he came out on top. But regardless, I mean, my experience in watching people get terminated from the profession, it's a fucking shit show. And then the other thing is, it falls on command staff. Yeah, you can report someone, like you said, and you can talk to people and you can confront people, but plain old deputies and fucking patrol officers, they don't have the power to get rid of anyone. You know what I mean? So when you say that, oh, well, if there's still bad cops in the ranks and you guys haven't gotten rid of them, that means all cops are bad. That's a fucking naive way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's stupid. But like you said before, too, like there's a lot of promoted cops that are the bad ones.
Of course, man.
A lot of them.
And when I say like the ones that get promoted are the bad ones, I don't mean like they're out doing shady shit or they're extorting people or like, was it in the 70s? All the cops in New York were like slinging dope and, and you know, like extorting criminals and all that shit. You don't see that kind of stuff. When I say when the bad ones get promoted, I mean just the ones that have the least leadership capability. They're the most inept. They don't have good integrity. They don't have a good moral compass. They're there for them.
Right.
And if you're there for yourself, then you're in the wrong fucking profession.
I would actually argue, and I would say above sergeant, because I've had quite a few good sergeants. I've had some pretty bad ones. But I would say once it gets above sergeant is where you see the higher percentage of like the ones doing it for the wrong reasons.
For sure. Yeah. Yep. You get up higher in that command staff and it's like, I don't know what they do. I don't know. Like, bro, one of the guys that was kind of leading the charge against me, I never talked to him before. And he was a fucking assistant chief. And I was on patrol for fucking over 3 years. And this guy never even said a word to me. And that's how you know you're a piece of shit leader. Like, know your people. That's a very basic leadership principle. Know your people. Know what they're about. Even if that means going into roll call and just interacting with the troops. You know, you can't hide behind a desk and hold the respect of any of the people, you know?
Right.
But he was also the guy. I told you this when we were off air. So when I made my video initially, they said it violated some of our department's social media policy, right? And so what do you think they did? They dug through my Instagram for the last 3 years that I've been employed with them, and they found another video. And that video was from literally like 2 years earlier, right? And I was on patrol one day, and I got a phone call, and a teammate of mine that I was deployed to Iraq with had killed himself. And that happened 3 times to me in 2019. And it's bizarre because my last deployment was 2009, and then I lost 3 teammates in 2019 to suicide. And it's like, man, there's something about this 10-year mark where dudes are becoming severely depressed and PTSD is getting its hooks in them and they're taking their life. So I'm sitting in my patrol car and I just hold my phone and I make a video, and it's basically like, hey, if you're a fucking police officer or you're a veteran or you're a soldier and you went through hard times, you saw bad stuff and it's starting to affect you, don't wait. Like, reach out, talk to people, talk to me, send me a message in my fucking DM. And I was just trying to get people to open up because I was like, dude, if one person hears this video and it helps them out, it's worth it, right? And I didn't even think about a violation of policy. I'm like, that was so far removed. Well, check this out. My chief lost a child to suicide. I get called into the command's office, and this is when I made it. Someone saw it and brought it up, and I was commended for it. And they're like, Greg, that was good stuff. Keep it up, man. Like, you move the needle. People listen to you.
You could call that community policing from a supervisor standpoint.
And so they're like, dude, people listen to you. There's something like, you inspire people. Keep it up. I was given allocates for doing it. Fast forward, I made the second video. Now I had 2 charges pending against me. One for the video that everybody saw, and then a second one for that video from 2 years ago because I was in uniform. And so I went right to my chief and I was like, Chief, we spoke about this video and now it's a secondary allegation. So what the fuck is this? What are we talking about here? I said, that's the most cowardice shit I've ever seen in my life from this department. You want to fire me for the video that I just made? That's fine. I'll fucking stand up and I'll take it. And I told you guys that I would. But you want to have a second allegation over something that is completely unrelated to this? You just want to stack the cards against me? Is 2 allegations against me better than 1? Is that going to make it easier to get rid of me? I said, it's fucking bullshit. You know it's bullshit. And he called me back in like an hour and he goes, Greg, I had that first allegation dropped. And I'm like, well, I mean, I got fired anyway, so what's it worth?
Right.
But yeah, it's just dirty. And
Right.
they play the game dirty because that's what's self-serving to the agency and that's what's self-serving to them. So
Right. Well, I'm waiting for something like that to come up because my wife has pictures of me in uniform reading storied bedtime books to my kids on my meal break.
oh, what an evil person, dude.
I'm waiting for that to come up. Something like that.
Well, good, man. I'll tell you this, like whatever path your life goes from here, it'll be interesting to check back and talk to you in a year from now. And I guarantee you, you're going to say the same thing that I said. You're free.
Right.
You can breathe. You feel good. Dude, your soul, you're going to feel it in your soul. Like I always say there was a metaphoric and a physical weight that was lifted off of me from leaving the profession. Because, I mean, you know how it is sitting in that car all day with all that gear and your vest and like your back and your knees. I mean, I'm a little older than you, so maybe it affected me worse.
I'm getting there.
Yeah, you're getting
kids,
there,
so
right?
It's catching up to me.
And like that stuff starts to weigh on you, but also the emotional side of the job that you don't even know was weighing on you because this is your normal life, right? This is what you do. You wake up and you hit the road and you do what you do. So you don't have something, a different baseline to compare it to. In a couple months, you're going to feel younger. You're going to feel like you're going to realize how fucking toxic that profession is. And I don't say that like to paint the profession in a bad light because I know a lot of good cops and I always say someone has to do it. It's honorable and it's necessary, right? But as an individual, I guarantee you are going to feel like a better version of yourself from walking away. And all of my buddies that I've talked to that have left the profession say the same thing.
Right. And that's a really good rabbit hole to go down because that's something that I've really been focusing on the last few years because I've been through a lot in my life since I've been a cop. And so it's something that's not really addressed. And I want to bring this up because our agency just opened a health and wellness group that they're trying to build. And I don't know what the intent or the actual plan behind it is, the long-term plan. It should be that they find and provide opportunities for everyone in the department to be healthier. One of the things that they frown on is working out while on duty. There's agencies that promote that. But
your agency's against that, huh?
Right. So I've asked my sergeants because we went to outer vests after a lot of other agencies did because we're all about tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So once we went to outer vests, and I've asked several sergeants like, hey, I've got a 24-hour gym membership. Can I go lift light weights? And the whole point behind these outer vests, well, it was mostly to help with like hip and back pain because we wore everything around our waist on a belt.
Yeah, so it distributes the weight a little more efficiently.
Right. So it was also put out there that, hey, you can take this off when you're at the office to type reports or whatever, And so I'm like, okay, well, if it's a slow night and I can keep my radio on and use part of my break and go in the gym, I don't have to lift heavy. Like I'm not going to be in there trying to deadlift 500 pounds. In uniform. I mean, my legs are huge and I rip pants just sitting in my car.
You're not going to do a CrossFit workout like Murph.
Right. Right. I mean, I'm not going to sweat all over my uniform, but we sit in our cars for 10, 12 hours a shift, and that's only going to make your joints seize, your muscles less limber, and taking the time, even if it's in the last half of your shift somewhere, to go get in the gym for 20 or 30 minutes, that's only going to benefit you and it's only going to benefit the department.
Bro, it's huge.
Yeah. And I mean, on top of that, so some of the things that, and I kind of wonder if this health and wellness portion of the agency is going to frown on is like testosterone therapy. Mm-hmm. So testosterone therapy, the 3 or 4 doctors that I've seen for that, they can't obviously give you names of who they have, but first responders, they have a huge percentage of their clients are first responders.
Yeah.
Because we work screwed up shifts. So your body naturally functions off sun up, sun down schedule. So once you go outside of that and then you add stress and sometimes your home life gets worse, whatever the combination.
A lot of times.
Yeah. Whatever the combination is, your adrenals get fatigued. It's called adrenal fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And stress levels directly affect your testosterone, which if your testosterone drops, your estrogen goes up and thyroid problems come up. And I had high red blood cell count for probably the last 3 years, but I had low iron, which is kind of a weird combo. But iron directly relates to energy. Like I had zero energy most of the time for years. So I like that rabbit hole because it's a chance to tell guys that are actually on the department, kind of on a health standpoint. It's taken a big turn from talking about the political stuff. But
yeah,
if you guys are tired or weak, or if your department doesn't let you work out, like that's another thing you got to stand up for because, I mean, testosterone, thyroid, iron, adrenals, all 4 of those things and a million other things directly relate to stress. So you're talking about, I mean, I'm getting close to what would be my 10-year mark, and I'm not healthy at all. I just got myself back into the gym. Lifting weights is probably my favorite stress relief. Having kids makes it hard, but those are things you really got to focus on and things you should look at if you're, and stress directly correlates to suicide. I mean, in the last year, I've been depressed, straight up depressed.
Yeah.
I've had almost or very close to anxiety attacks. And like you said, that weight coming off you just in the last week, that's been a huge difference.
So you're already feeling it. That's
Yeah,
fucking awesome.
I went to the gym. So the day they came and took my car to put me on admin leave was my first day in the gym. I get a call maybe a half hour after getting in the gym. I had done one workout and I sat down on the seated lat rows, the cable rows, and the lieutenant called me. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I was like, "Oh, pretty good."
Fucking awesome. I'm doing I'm doing rows.
And this is the day after that Pendleton trooper texted me, so I knew exactly why he was calling me.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Do you know why I'm calling you?" I said, "Yeah, I've got a pretty good idea." He says, "Yeah, you should." So, and then, like I said, I only had one workout and I had to leave then to come get my stuff ready. That was the best workout. So when I went back to the gym that night, that was the best workout I've had in probably 2 years. The most drive I've had in the gym in like 2 years. And I mean,
dude, I love it, man.
I'm on testosterone therapy and iron pills and vitamins and all this other stuff. But I mean, you got to do it.
You got to do it, man. And I mean, statistically, if you retire from a law enforcement job, you got 5 years left.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Most cops die within 5 years of retirement. And I talk to people about that all the time. It's like you give and you give and you give and you give. And how many cops do you know that talk about retirement all the time? Like, oh, I'm padding my retirement fund, and then I'm going to buy an RV, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do this. Well, statistically, you're not going to do much of it because your heart's going to blow up within 5 years of retirement. And a lot of them are overweight and they don't work out. And it's like you're putting together this the worst case scenario for your future. It's the career, it's the inactivity, it's sitting all the time. They say sitting's the new smoking. Like at my department, one of our sub offices had a stand-up desk. And that was like a game changer. I would go there specifically, like I would volunteer to work that area because I was like, dude, I get to write my reports at a stand-up desk instead of continuing to sit all day, But dude, my department, both the departments that I've worked for, the agencies I've worked for, allowed you to do 1 hour of working out on duty. And dude,
it should be that way across the board, everywhere.
I would try and do it like some people, everybody has their preference, right? But I would try and do it about mid-shift. And what we would do is we would just coordinate. We would get to roll call, and then it would have your workout sign-up sheet because they don't want more than 2 officers at a time out of uniform. And so you just coordinate it with your patrol partners, and then you get to go and like everybody would do it differently because I would like to just do super high intense workouts, and I would do like really, really hard CrossFit. And it's interesting because I'm losing my drive to do really hard workouts lately. I would say over like the last 4 months. And there's a part of me that's wondering, like, is the reason you don't have all of that stress that you're trying to buffer?
Could be.
Yeah, I think that might be what it is. Or
Check
maybe
your hormones. If you don't, or if you haven't, it's worth looking into, because if you've got, even if you're not stressed, your hormones can be jacked up.
for sure.
I mean, age directly correlates to that stuff too. And, as you get older, they
Well,
get
and I'm
worse.
on testosterone
Okay.
therapy as well. And that's another thing. That's a game changer.
Yeah.
Is like, you can say whatever you want about testosterone because
There's still a stigma attached to it, which is the problem.
I don't think people understand testosterone is an anabolic steroid. A synthetic version of testosterone is an anabolic steroid.
Right.
So when people hear that, they just think, oh my God, it's the worst thing in the world. And it's like, no. You got to understand, testosterone is like anything else on planet Earth. You can use it properly and it can enhance your life, or you can be an idiot and you can, like, I always tell people, like, the regimen that I'm on is 1 milliliter of testosterone cypionate a week.
Mhm.
Bodybuilders will take 30, right? And so that gives you an idea of the range that you can use this stuff in. And again, if you want to be a bodybuilder and you want to weigh 300 pounds and you want to take 30 milligram or 30 cc's, go ahead. I don't care. But you're probably going to blow your heart up at some point.
Right.
Well,
and a number to chew on. So I was 23 when I first had my testosterone checked, and my testosterone was 216. It should be like 500 to 900. And so mine was at the level of an 80-year-old man at 23 years old.
Just 2 years on the job.
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
Yeah. And I just recently was notified that my iron was low, and my adrenals hardly work anymore, so I have to take a naturopathic adrenal booster. But
have they tied that to
stress?
The stresses of just going from, like I said, you're sitting drinking coffee to just going 100 miles an hour to high speed pursuit, and then you're back down and like that.
That's part of it. But so my first marriage lasted until mid 2017, and it was garbage. The only thing good I got out of it was the lessons of what I didn't want, and my 2 awesome kids. And that was probably the biggest part of my hormone imbalance, my stress, was the marriage. 'Cause she would guilt trip me for wanting to go to the gym to relieve stress. She said she thought it was sad that I felt like I needed to go to the gym to relieve stress.
Man, it's sad. It's sad that she doesn't understand what you need.
Well, and that's so if you think about it, there's a way higher percentage of marriages so like I was married to her before I was a cop. So if
you got married young then.
I got married at 20.
Okay, that's crazy, dude.
So if you're married before you become a police officer, there's a way higher chance that marriage is not going to work out, because they will not understand the different lifestyle, because it's a completely different lifestyle than anything else. If you get married after you're a cop, there's a higher chance that it'll work out, because
she came in knowing.
Hopefully you date for enough of amount of time that they know what they're getting into.
Got it.
So that's a big part of it. And so you might remember this. So in the academy, they try to drill it into the recruits not to bring work home. So not to bring the stressors or the BS from work to your house, because that can ruin a marriage completely.
Yeah.
But so at our academy, we only teach OSP because we're OSP. They go through the basic police with the other agencies, but I only teach OSP defensive tactics. So on the last day of so we have a pre-academy that's 4 weeks, just OSP recruits. And then they go through the 16-week basic police academy where they mix in with the other new agency recruits. And then we do a post or advanced academy that is generally like 5 or 6 weeks. It changes all the time. And that advanced academy is just more OSP defensive tactics, more OSP specific classroom time. But we get the opportunity on the last day of post-academy DT to kind of open up and get on a real level with the new recruits. And what I have brought to them the last probably 4 of those post-academy time wind downs that I've had the opportunity to sit in on is, 1, do something physical. I tell them I don't care what it is. If you do CrossFit, jiu-jitsu, which I highly, highly recommend as a police officer because, well, and that's another really quick rabbit hole is we wear vests and shirts. And unless you put a gi on in a jiu-jitsu mat, then you don't understand what your vest and what your shirt could give someone if they have experience.
Yeah.
Choke you out.
Yep.
Right. And like I said, I was a wrestler. So, I mean, you wear leotards. But one of the guys that I work with, I went to his jiu-jitsu gym a couple times. The owner of the gym was Half Gracie trained. He was his neighbor growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I put a gi on, it was like 5 seconds on the mat. I was like, holy shit, this vest, like, this is serious. This is something you should really focus on. But anyway, I don't care if it's lifting weights, jiu-jitsu, boxing, do something physical.
Yeah.
I highly recommend some sort of martial art just because you probably have to use it.
You're going to have to use it.
Right. Then the other thing I tell them, like, you know, they've already told you at this point in the academy not to bring work home. But what was worse for me was bringing home to work.
Yeah.
So if you have shit going on at home, that I was using work as an escape.
Yeah.
To get away from home. And that should never be the case. And that's a guaranteed prescription to make stupid decisions. I mean, I would drive 130, 140 miles an hour on the freeway to a non-injury crash. You get careless.
Yeah.
And it's just,
well, that's the first step of, reckless behavior.
It breeds poor decisions.
Yeah.
Especially in a patrol car. So you're in a several 1,000-pound torpedo. You have a pistol. You're high liability as it is. But then you go into work with the wrong head on. That's when bad decisions are made.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like an unconscious suicide, though. You know,
right?
Because I'm open about I did a lot of deployments to combat, and I've been through a lot of therapy sessions that initially I thought it was stupid. You know, I was like, I'm not going to go to therapy. It's fucking dumb. It's weak. All these negative connotations that people like us attach to therapy. But I went and did it anyways. And I learned a lot about myself, and it was actually really good. But she told me that, like, one thing that she sees is very common in guys that are battling depression, especially stuff with your wife or financial stuff. It's not always like just because you're a cop, it's cop stuff, you know? And she's like, you see people that are in a bad spot their behavior starts to become more and more risky. So you're driving 140 miles an hour, or I like to climb mountains. So now you're climbing mountains that might be maybe outside of your capability or a little more dangerous than you would before. And that's because you're becoming a little more open to the idea of just fuck life, basically, you know?
Right.
And it sneaks up on you. And then for me, I'm very open about it. It reached a point where I was like, fuck life, dude. Like, because my home life was toxic for a while, and I'm still, we worked through it, and our marriage is probably the best it's ever been. But I was at my wit's end, you know? But I will say this, when you say don't take work home with you, to an extent, right? Because if you're sharing a house with a woman that you don't talk about the stuff that's bothering you, or the stuff that is frustrating you at work, or some of the bad shit that you saw, it's going to be hard for her to walk through that journey with you if she doesn't understand that journey at all. Well, so it's a dichotomy, right?
Right. That's why I say bringing home to work was way worse for me.
Yeah.
And like you said, you know, your spouse, they're supposed to be the one you lean on. Like, therapy is there for when you need it, and you should never frown on that. And if people do frown on that, then they need to shut the hell up.
Yeah.
But your spouse has to a certain level, be able to understand what you're going through. So yeah, you should tell them some of the stories, maybe not tell them all the deep details, but they have to kind of understand the things you see and the things you feel and how it affects you. And that's only going to better make them able to help. But bringing home to work is it's always going to be a recipe for disaster if home is shit.
Yeah, for sure. Man, I remember like going through marital problems. It is the exact same thing that you said. Like, work would be my escape, you know? And I remember, but the one thing that my wife was always supportive of, she knew, regardless of how good we were at the time, that if I went to jiu-jitsu, I would come home better, you know?
Right.
So like I'd call her after I was getting off work or whatever, and she could just tell my vibe or my mood, and she'd be like, please go to the gym tonight, you know? And she's not even saying that like negatively. She literally knew, like, you need to go, you need to train, and you're going to de-stress. And so for anyone out there that's married to a cop or married to a first responder, like, you got to understand their time is precious and the time is valuable. But if you get half the time with them because they went and worked out that evening, but that half time is more valuable and you're connecting better and it's positive, then that's necessary. You know, you have to take care of yourself first before you can be good for your family.
Well, like we said about how sitting in the patrol car takes years off your life, and it's years.
Fuck yeah, it's years, man.
And that's another, I mean, if you can't wrap your mind around getting half time with them, that's another thing to think. Like, think about the long term. If they're going to get years taken off their life, that's years less that you get to spend with them. If those years are shit,
Yeah.
then you're just going to be miserable the whole time. But if you can encourage them to take care of themselves and also take care of them, you know, when they are there, then it's just you're gonna have a longer life together.
Yeah. And then the last thing I'll say on that is, like, my wife started to chase her own fitness goals and her own fitness journey, and that's become a big part of her life. And sometimes we work out together, but not often. It's usually her doing her thing and me doing my thing.
Well, you have kids.
Yeah, but we share the gym together, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, she'll be there doing her thing, and I'll be there doing my thing, and it's become kind of like just a normal part of our life. Is that, hey, our health and our fitness are a priority, so we go to the gym at this time. And I mean, I own the gym, so we bring all our kids with us, and they're just running around. You know what I mean? But regardless, like, that's a journey we started walking together, and that was like one of the pivotal moments where our marriage started to turn around, because we were sharing our time. Even though, like I said, I'm over on one side of the gym doing cross or jiu-jitsu, and she's doing CrossFit, but we started to prioritize our time a little differently. And I'm telling you, man, if people are not investing in their health and then they start to, it changes everything about who they are. And that was a big change in her life and her trajectory, is once she started focusing on her health and fitness. And it was just cool to see. So it's like, I think it's more important if you're a police officer for all the reasons we just discussed, but really anybody. Prioritize yourself, focus on your health and your fitness, and you're going to find that it changes a lot of different aspects of your life.
Well, and one of the first things we talked about was being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So working out, just breaking down in whatever way you're breaking down your body, whether it's by heavy weights, CrossFit, jiu-jitsu, just being active and making yourself sweat, your body recovers by producing those good hormones. And they're all of those hormones that are produced when you do that, they're happy hormones.
Yep.
So especially if you're both doing that together, then you're both, one, you're getting time together, or you're getting, I mean, if you don't work out together, then you're still producing those good hormones where, like you said, when you come home after a workout, she notices a big difference.
Yeah, everybody's better off.
Right. Your body recovers.
Well, and think about it, man, like, throughout history, everything that was worth having took effort. Right. If you wanted to fucking go foraging for food or hunting or building a cabin so you don't freeze to death, like, back up until like 100 years ago, the human experience was hard. And I think that's why hard work does fill us with those, like, good hormones and like the good feeling of that you get post workout, is because 200 years ago, we weren't doing CrossFit. We were moving logs onto a fire. You know what I mean? Right. Or dragging an animal for a mile.
Right.
So we started to our body started to adapt, and we feel a sense of reward when we do something hard, because you have to do something hard in order to survive. And now society's kind of taken that away. You can be very lazy and life can be very easy if you want it, but then you feel like a miserable fuck all the time. And that's why everybody's depressed and on pills and all the bullshit, you know?
Right. I'm trying to find this picture that directly correlates with that, and I think that I can.
Did you have to drag an animal a long ways?
No. It's just like the perfect phrase. So I tweaked this phrase for my Instagram page.
Uh-huh.
So the phrase initially reads, "Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Weak men create." No. Okay, so hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times.
Yeah. So it's
So
just
I just tweaked it and added nation instead of men, but like hard times create strong men, and strong men create good times.
yeah, dude. It's a never ending cycle, right? So right now, what part of the cycle we're in? We're in
A weak nation creates hard frickin' times.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully we get this fucking cycle to continue, and we go and we can get back to fucking good times. But it's going to take hard times. That's just it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no free lunch in this world.
It's right in our face right now. It's going to get worse for a little bit.
I think so too. I don't know how much worse. But this is another thing I say on the show all the time is like, let's say that this does just spiral as bad as we could imagine. And there is violence in our streets, and there is no more, the fucking food supply is shut down, and the grid goes down, and everything goes to shit. The truth is, the worse things get for our nation, the tighter your relationships will be with your friends and your family and your loved ones, because everything is going to have an extremely high level of importance on it, and survival is going to become imperative. It's going to become imperative that we take these necessary steps, and those necessary steps are going to bond you to people in a way that you didn't think possible. It's going to be rewarding in a way that you never felt like was possible. And so that's kind of what I tell myself in order to take a little bit of like, to put some hope into these current times. It's like, even if things go to shit, I know guys like us are going to be okay. And to tell you the truth, even though it's going to be extremely hard and difficult, life is probably going to feel better and more rewarding. And so when I look at it like that, it's like, well, if things turn around and I'm able to like build some businesses, and we're building some Airbnbs and like make some money, and yeah, that's cool. If that works out, great. But if shit just spirals out of control, that is probably the best case scenario to have the most fulfilling life. And so, like, all these doomsday preppers that have been fucking waiting for this, they're finally going to get to live that, you know?
Yep.
But I try and stay balanced, man, because it's easy to just get spun up and spiral out of control and think about like, oh, I need more food, I need more ammo, I need to do this, I need to do that. But the truth is, we're at a time where if you're not thinking that stuff a little bit and you're not taking some precautions, if you get caught off guard, you're going to be fucked. You know? And so, I mean, that's a big part of the show. I bring people on to talk about all that kind of stuff. And the biggest thing is to think that it is not a possibility. I think a lot of Americans, we've had it good for so long that if you mention the grid going down, or you mention like not having food, that almost sounds like a conspiracy theory. Bro, half the world lives that daily.
Right.
You know, we're a human being. We're not exempt. We're not exempt to really fucked up things happening and having to endure really hard and terrible shit. So,
have you seen that new cartoon called Marshals vs. the Machines?
No.
So you need to watch it.
Okay.
Because it's literally based off of that. Like, this guy creates a phone app that's like his assistant, and then he creates a robot and he throws the phone over his shoulder, basically, like that's old. Then the phone app starts controlling the robots, and they start shutting down Wi-Fi. And people start freaking out, but then they're like, they have these cages over here, and they're like, oh, free Wi-Fi over here, and everyone just like flocks it. And it's like, it's what the nation is right now. Like, weak people that you take away their phone, they're not going to be able to survive.
No.
Like, they can't dress an animal. They don't know what plants they can eat. They're just not ready.
And even more importantly than the actual skills, it's just the grit and resolve to overcome stuff and be a winner and be a survivor, you know? And that's why, I mean, I know it's fucked up to say, but there's a part of me that's like, you know what? I'm almost to the point where I want shit to hit the fan.
Right.
Because then all these people that are getting so concerned about all these little issues that are fucking non-issues. Oh, you're going to call me by this pronoun and I identify this way, and none of that's going to matter at all. And they're going to realize all the stuff that they're putting their energy into was a narrative that they were force-fed that was complete bullshit, and it didn't serve them at all. It served the machine, to go back to what we were saying, to divide and get people mad at each other and just stir up the hornet's nest. It's not serving them as individuals. And once people start doing things that serve them as individuals, like building capabilities, building fitness, building relationships, basic shit, right? Like, you shouldn't have to be a fucking scientist to figure out that that's what's going to add the most value to your life. But I think a time is coming where we're not going to have a choice. You're going to have to align with the right people. You're going to have your health and your fitness, and you're going to have your capabilities. And if you don't, you're going to get fucking left for the wolves, man.
Yep.
Well, fuck, we're over 2 hours. That's about where I usually leave this show. So I just want to say, like, I'm fucking proud to know that there's more people in the profession that are standing up, that are not just going to take a back seat and let this tyranny sweep across this country. Because if we do, we know where this is going. We already know. And so we have to force this to stop. And the only way that it does is everybody standing up. And courage is contagious, man. It starts with 1s and 2s and 5s and 10s. And once we have hundreds of people standing up saying that we're not fucking taking it anymore, that's where this stops. But we got to get people there.
That's why they're trying to ban the cartoon of Bug's Life.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't it crazy, dude?
Yeah.
Like, anything that potentially harms their fucking narrative and their agenda, it's just cancel culture. You know, you can't even put a YouTube video up. Now take that down. Take that down.
Right.
And so I'll give you the last word, man. Is there anything else you want to put out, or anything, like, if you want people to be able to connect with you, or if you want to just inspire, like, what are your final thoughts, man?
The things that I get the most in the messages, just since this blew up, is, people are saying, we want to get behind you. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because I have really bad OCD, but that, just saying that bothers the hell out of me. Get beside me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the quiet guy, and I made a video. And on top of that, the next most common question is, what can we do to help? Stop being quiet. Stop just being okay with the progression of everything that's going on. Stand up. Speak out. You don't have to make a video, but that's probably the best way with the way the world is right now, until it all gets shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Put yourself out there, because it's only going to help. If you're going to be quiet just because you need your paycheck, and especially those of you with kids in law enforcement, we'll just stay specifically to law enforcement. What are you teaching them by just falling in line? It's literal sheep. We're supposed to be the sheepdogs.
That's right.
We took an oath. Every single one of you took the exact same oath. Some of you more than once. I think I took it twice in the academy. But you guys need to speak up, stand up, because you're preparing the future for your kids. If you're just doing what you're told the entire time, one, it's morally wrong for more of you than not. And it goes completely against everything we swore to. So be heard, stand up. If you pray. If you're financially able, help support these, like this lawsuit against Oregon governor.
Mm-hmm.
Support that. That link's in my bio. Just do something. Put action on the ground. Stop being quiet, because you're not doing any good.
All right. I agree, man. All good points. And again, I will link all of your information if you want to send me those links to your bio or to that as well. I put all that stuff in the show notes so people can just access it quickly. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better, man. It's time for everyone to get together and stand up, because everybody knows what's right. And the longer we put it off, I think the more difficult it's going to be to change the trajectory.
Right.
So
I might have a little apparel coming out soon too.
Cool, man.
On the lines of this cause. So
all right, I like it.
So I'll get that to you.
All right, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. And we'll have to, I hate to say circle back, but we're going to circle back at some point and do it again and follow up and see how life's treating you, man.
Sounds good. It'll be fun.
All right. Thank you.